Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. It's Local Chat, episode 198. I'm your host, Will Crosby. Joining me this week with a freshly donned A24 shirt, it's Kyle Bailey.
Yes, I'm repping my one and only Hideo Kojima adjacent apparel and feeling pretty good. It's a comfy shirt, I must say. It's comfy.
Hell yeah. Speaking of comfy shirts, there's one Ian's going to be ordering off of our community Discord. It's Ian Gibson.
That's right. I've forgotten. There's so many things I need to order. I saw a good hat today. We got that new T-shirt. I'm a big fan of Slobodan Milosevic now. Got to get a T-shirt of that. You know,
I don't know what that means, but I'm happy for you.
We'll talk about it later.
You're speaking Russian or something.
Oh, well, I'm going to Russian through this intro.
Nice.
Go Ukraine. Folks, I have been watching Gundam. It's been great. Ian and I talked about it a little bit on Tuesday.
You know, I hate to stop you, but there's like 50 Gundam series. You got to say which one you're watching.
I watched all of the Gundam. I just sat down and I literally asked to watch all the Gundam.
I think you were there when I had this revelation when we were talking about Gundam, and I was like, I just realized I've watched like 6 or 7 Gundam series, which means I've watched like 350 episodes of Gundam, and I was like, why did I do that for that like 18-month period of my life where I was just watching Gundam nonstop? I should get back to that.
Do you regret it? Like, it was good though, right?
Some of them were good. Some of them were not good. And when I say some of them were not good, I still watched all 50 episodes of that series. So Gundam's one of those things where it is cool. There are a lot of really cool moments, but the ratio of good stuff to not good stuff is unfortunately a little low. So like when I was talking to Will and recommending Gundam, I was like, here's how I recommend starting it. And then here's the series I would hit. And then here's the series I would avoid. And it's much harsher than even the community would say.
Okay. Because that's actually, you guys, I mean, your collective, like all three of you have kind of been harping on Gundam and how good it is, or it's pretty formative to, I think, a lot of your interests and hobbies. And I just somehow completely missed that window growing up. So it's one of those things where it's like in the back of my mind, like I kind of would like to start, but it's also one of those things like, oh, you should watch Dragon Ball Z from the beginning, where it's just overwhelming in that, like,
yeah,
I don't know where to start. So if you have like a recommended like viewing experience, maybe I could do that.
Oh,
I should do that.
I have something for you.
Sorry, just to be clear,
no,
though,
absolutely not.
We are man children.
Yeah,
I started watching Gundam in 2020, not when I was a kid.
Okay, all right. So not very formative, not super formative.
No.
And I built the models before I watched the show. Because of Ian,
which is disgusting.
It was just disgusting. My camera's doing awesome, fun stuff, and I don't know why.
I thought you were doing it on purpose.
Nope, it is scary.
I kind of like it.
It's
nice,
the
vibe for sure, but I want to figure out why it's doing that.
Keep this for Spooky Pixel.
Someone's selling 4 of these for $170 on eBay, and I was like, oh, what if I just bought 4 more of them to have them and awesome. To hold them till death.
Have a little switcher.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. Anyways, Gundam, Ian, Kyle. Okay, me. First you're gonna wanna watch the 6 Origin films, which is Origin.
See, I think it's not the right order. I don't think they're very good, but I think it's the wrong order.
So I watched all 6 of those, and then you're gonna want to watch the 3 Gundam movies that replace or re-edited from the original Gundam films into movies instead of the show.
So, quick question.
Yes, in the back.
I thought there were 2. So did you watch Char's Counterattack as the 3rd one?
No, I have watched the 6 Origin films. That's all I have watched. And
I thought you said you would watch the next.
Next is Mobile Suit Gundam 1, 2, and 3, and then after that is one series, and then something else. Then it's Char's Counterattack. And
maybe Zeta.
I'm going off of this like 2-minute YouTube video that I found that puts everything in perspective. He's like, do this, and then everything else takes place during the war, so watch this and this, and then these are the ones that if you still haven't quenched your thirst, they're these side stories, and then if those don't help, here's the alternate universe stories that you can watch.
See, I know that that 2-minute video is wrong, because 2 minutes is way too short, because what I had been going off of was multiple flow charts and guides that were like 15,000 by 15,000 pixels, and you had to zoom in because and there's arrows being like, oh, you want this, you got to go over here. So yeah, Kyle, I think I'm going to do what you said and post that in the Discord, which is like, hey, here's my recommended how to get into Gundam. Not how to watch all of it, but just like, hey, here's how to start from scratch and get enough to then pick and choose where you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm curious the order you're going off of, Will. You know.
Yeah, it boiled down to the guy's point of his video was like, hey, watch, like, if you want to know the origins of the war, watch this, the origin thing, and then watch the 3 movies / or watch through the TV show, because that like sort of shows you whatever the 1-year war stuff.
Yeah, but it's kind of like watching Star Wars episodes 1 through 3 before you watch 4, 5, and 6.
Oh, he didn't recommend, like,
yeah,
he didn't recommend what, like, it's funny you say it that way, because that's literally how they phrased it. I just watched it because it was in chronological order, and I didn't feel like watching the old movies first. So, like, I don't think,
and it is easier. It is easier to get into Origin, for sure.
Yeah, that was the other reason I started with it, because it's more modern, and it's also really good. So I recommend watching it. But yeah, if you just want, like, it's obviously spoils some things I assume it spoils things that happen in the other shows, but I don't actually know, because I don't think know
it does
what happens in it. I'm also waiting for really them to be like, there's moments in the show where they like say something or show someone, and I'm like, I bet I'm supposed to know who that is and like have a big reaction to it, but I'm not.
I was just about to say, because the other thing that I would recommend against it is because like in the original series, there's this character Ramba Ral who shows up for like 3 or 4 episodes, and he's so badass. Like that's the only time he's in the series. He's really badass. There's multiple Gunpla of him. Everybody's like Ramba Ral. I have a T-shirt with Ramba Ral's face on it, right? Like he's got a bitchin' mustache. And then there's a scene in Origin where he shows up at a jazz bar. And if you don't have that context, it's kind of like, oh, it's just some random military guy. But when I saw him, I was like, it's fucking Ramba Ral. And I was like, oh, and that's the lady. That's, oh my God. Like,
to be fair,
so that's why I'm like,
they set him up pretty well, where Jimba Ral and stuff that happens with him, and Ramba Ral and his fun blonde lady. And they still, like, he's part of the original, like, Suit Gundam team for Zeon, and like is fighting stuff on that side. So you get to know him fairly well.
That's fair.
So I will also say the Origin, other than Char or Char, who you're like really with, and then you're really not with, and then you're still like, kind of with, because you're like,
his name? What's his name again? Because
Casvar.
Is that his fake name, or is that his real name?
Casvar Daikun is his real name, because he spoiler does something to change his name. But he's the son of the rebellion leader who was about to declare Zeon as its own principality. Long story short,
the reason why I bring that up is in Zeta he does a Superman. He does a Superman Clark Kent where he shows up wearing sunglasses, and everybody's like, who is this? And he goes, I'm Lieutenant Quattro Vegeta. And you're just like, no, that's Char Aznavour. Like, clearly that's Char Aznavour.
No, so he has sunglasses in the Origin show, and then the guy like makes him his head covering thing. But long story short, the Origin will have you siding with the bad guys, the Nazis.
So good. It's so good.
So maybe watch it at your own risk, but I'm totally on their side.
I've had this exact same conversation with gays just about Drag Race, where they just start saying a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, okay, great, okay, I'm sure I'll get to know all these people.
So Gundam is a lot like Drag Race, honestly. There's a lot of very flamboyant characters wearing their custom costumes. Yeah, it's wild. It's actually, now that I think, the more I think about it, it really is, because every villain has their own fashion style. It's wild.
Yeah. So I recommend watching The Origin. I really enjoyed it. No matter where you are in your Gundam journey, if you haven't seen it, I recommend watching it. It's fantastically put together. They're not like gonna knock your socks off, but they're well done. And every successive episode of it, they're movies, but they're only like, they're TV movies. They're like an hour each. But each successive version of it has a recap of the past number of movies. So by the time you get to the sixth movie, they're like, we're recapping the first 5, baby. And you're just like, okay. Nice. But they do it
genuinely nice, though.
They don't just replay it every single time. They like recut it together and like explain it. Beautiful. And like so like when you watch the second movie, they explain the first. When you watch the third, they explain the first and second. But by the time you get to the fourth movie, they're like, hey, let's put 1 and 2 together and sort of explain that, and then 3 is the most recent. So it's very well done. Gundam's good. The gun is good. Or penis is bad. Whatever it is.
Now I know you're following the same rule that I've imposed on myself, which is you're not allowed to buy Gunpla or Gundam models until you see that model in the show that you're watching. So how excited are you to finally buy and build your first Gunpla models?
I'm so excited to buy. I'm pretty sure I own Rambaral's Gundam.
His goof, his custom goof.
So I'm pretty sure I own that already. And I have a bunch up here that I haven't seen. They tease the 70 MX-78. What is it?
RX-78 RX-78.
They tease that one at the end of it where they're like, oh, we're gonna have a mobile suit.
Yeah. Because the series starts with it just showing up and fucking people up, and the Xeon are just like, well, they've got one now? Why is it so much better than ours? Holy shit. It's great.
Yeah. That's Gundam. It's good.
I'm not gonna lie, I was disappointed when I was in Tokyo and I offered to buy you guys Gunpla from like the official store, and none of you sent me anything that you wanted.
Well, see, the problem is I'm currently at any point in time I have at least 10 Gunpla unbuilt.
That's kind of like me with Legos, where I don't have anywhere to put them. So
yeah. So I was holding back.
I had what is it called? I almost said buyer's remorse, but that's not what it is. What's it when you have too many options? That's sort of what I get. Like when you would
analysis paralysis.
Yeah, like going to Gundam Planet, I'm just like, I guess I'll get I am going to a hobby shop, the good hobby shop I've been to now that I didn't get to bring Ian to, because they were closed on a Monday. But they, I'm gonna go there this weekend and buy some more Tamiya paints and maybe get some more waterline models, because they just have like it's not the online experience. You just walk in, it's just like tons and tons of model boxes, like stuff you would never find anywhere, and you're just like reading them, and it's like, oh, here's the 1/700 waterline series, but it's by like 10 different companies in Japan, so you're like trying to find the lineage there, and so I'm gonna walk away with a bunch more models. Probably it'll be great. Speaking of models, I did buy an airbrush, Ian. I bought that powered compressor one that we saw, the first video we saw. I haven't tested it out yet because I bought a spray booth, and I know you were going to send me a spray booth, but they had a really nice one on Amazon for $80 with the fans and the like ducting and all that. So I set that up out back. It's ducted through the window. It's set up to go, and I just have to paint. And the next step, I base coated everything white of Porco Rosso's plane, and now I bought the Italian red in a spray can because I need to do a bunch of that, and then all these other little pieces I'm going to test out with the airbrush this weekend, see how it does. But I was playing around with it a little bit. It's pretty powerful. It came out of the box fully charged, which was surprising. It's got that cable, nice. Pressure's good, and the spray booth I tested, it's a little loud. But it's not.
But you kind of want it to be.
Yeah, it's not loud. It's more like, actually, it's more noisy than loud. It's just like you turned on two big fans to suck air out of the room.
Well, I was looking at building my own spray booth because I'm trying to be lazy and not go to the garage when I want to airbrush, but I was trying to like price out my own custom little spray booth, and I was like, I did the calculations of like, okay, if I have a 2 foot by 2 foot opening, what does the flow need to be to do the paint properly? Long story short, they're like, you need like a 400 cubic feet per minute fan. Damn. And it's like 150, and I was like, Jesus. And so that's why those spray booth fans are so loud, because when you do the calculations, it actually does need to move a lot of air for it to properly ventilate, etc.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to test my airbrushing skills this weekend. I'm going to try to do this model quick and dirty. I was testing all sorts of methods on it. Like I was trying to make some of the recesses deeper with the scraper thing, and I like missed occasionally, and I'm just like, ooh, and then like tried to fill it in, and then when I base coded, I was like, it did not fill in at all. Yeah. So it's just like I'll play it off as war damage, I guess. Maybe gouge it out a little bit more.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna do a little airbrushing this weekend because I started a kit as well. I finally started the Sherman. Tamiya Sherman that I got for Christmas a couple years ago. So I'm gonna knock that out, practice my tank skills, because at some point in the next year I still have to do that giant M10 tank destroyer that my grandfather used in the war. I got a giant kit of that I want to do really nicely. So I got to practice tank
on our
now,
side,
basically. Yeah.
I was looking. I was like, oh, let me just build a plane quick. And I had a Messerschmitt, and I was like, I don't feel like doing like a German plane right now. So close to the election, you know.
You've done so many already.
I've done so many already. They're all on the walls. And then so I go out back to check my planes, and I go, oh, I have another plane kit. Pull it out. It's Hitler's Junker JU, and I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that one either. And then I walked over here, and I was like, oh, I have Porco Rosso planes. He's Italian. It's the okay.
Late war Italian. Late war Italian.
So, and he's technically from World War I. So, that is where I'm at with the models. They're calling in. The numbers are coming in, folks. We're done chit chatting, which means we got to talk about the video games we've been playing. Kyle Bailey, you bastard, what have you been playing?
Well, there's been a game on here that has been on my Steam list for a while that I've had because I won it in like one of my friends was doing a raffle and he was like, I'll buy a Steam game, and I won. And I was like, cool, great, never gonna play it. And I decided, you know what? Maybe I am gonna play it. And it's called Death Sprint 66, made by Sumo Digital, the guys who do the Sonic Team Racing, and I think they did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, if I remember correctly.
I didn't realize this was the Sonic Racing folks. This is the one that showed really well whenever they premiered it. And then I guess nobody, I never realized it came out.
Yeah, it came out back in September on the 12th, according to Steam. It's got very positive reviews. I've played it for about an hour, and it is fun. It's fun. It's not amazing, but it's fun. It's very much like a sort of cyberpunk dystopian game show kind of thing, where I think the idea is that you play a person who's controlling like a body, like a clone or something, and you are participating in these death races that are just you sprinting and sort of power sliding. There's a rail system that you can use. There's wall running. There's launch pads, and you can sort of throw these bouncing buzzsaws at people to like decapitate them or cut them in half. And it's pretty violent and visceral and fast, but it's fun. Matchmaking takes a pretty long time. It took me like 5 minutes to find a match, but once I found it, it just kept going and going. So it was pretty seamless after that. It runs really well. I didn't have to do any kind of tweaking, and it's just sort of like a, pass the time, run a couple races, you level up, you get some new outfits for free. I didn't check out anything if there's any like a cosmetic store or microtransactions like that. I just played, and it's good for a free game. I think you can get it $16. I mean, even that might be a little too much for me. If it was like 12 or 10, like it'd be great. It seems like it would be a lot of fun on mobile or like the Switch. I don't know necessarily as a PC game how successful it is. It doesn't have that many reviews. It's got almost 300, I think, and it's fine. Like it's perfectly harmless. It's got like a pretty stock standard cyberpunk aesthetic, but it was good. And I mean, I came in third. I came in second. So it's not that difficult. And I came from like last place too. And it was pretty cool. Like the last 30 seconds, things start happening.
Generous.
And yeah. It was thank you. I was waiting for someone to So yeah, it was good. It was good.
I mean, it's your last chance to come last place. So
yeah,
it's pretty good.
Oh boy.
Not to. Oh, sorry, that hit me like a ton of bricks. I was gonna say though, damn it, Ian. This game, when you were talking about how they're like clones that run, you just made me think instantly. If this was a movie, the final race, like where he's gonna win it all, the clone machine breaks, and it's like he has to run in the death race, and that's
starring Gerard Butler.
Gerard Butler. Well, it's Gerard Butler's butt as Gerard Butler.
Well, it's Gerard Butler, but he's old and like he is right now, where he's in like his late 50s or whatever. But they digitally de-age him for an enormous amount of money for no reason, instead of just hiring someone who looks like a younger version of Gerard Butler.
And it's actually Scientology movie.
That's what they're running away from.
Yeah, is L. Ron Hubbard, his clones. That's crazy. It's funny you mentioned it, Ian. I remember this game showing, and it looked really fun. I want to say Summer Game Fest or something like that. I'm sad to see that I'm happy to see that you at least found a game. Yeah.
I mean, it's fine. Like it's not something I'm going to like spend 60 hours in, or at least I don't foresee. But it works well. It does what is advertised on the tin. It feels like a Devolver Digital game. Like it could come out from that. It's not. It's from Secret Mode, which I don't know what they have published. Let's look here.
It not feels much. Like, I was about to say, this feels like a failure on the publisher, because it got buzz, it popped, and then no marketing after that. They should have jumped on that.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be really fun local, but it doesn't have local.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see if this came out in like the 360 era, it probably would have been a really big hit. But as it is right now, it's fine. It works well. I haven't experienced any crashes or anything, but it's harmless, good time for like an hour or two, and then kind of just put it down, which is unfortunate, but that's kind of what it is. So that was the first game, and then the second game, you bastards got me finally to play Balatro. And it's on my phone, which is almost unheard of because I never play any kind of games on my phone. But I think it was like $9.99 or something like that on my phone, and I was like, all right, fine, I'll do it. Holy shit. This game is addicting. I know from even way before playing it that it would feel this way, but I was not anticipating just how, like, I'll just do one more round, or like, I could spend another 5 minutes, and then which turns into an hour, which turns into 2 hours, which turns into, it's my lunch break is finished and I have to get back to work. You
forgot to flush. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I always do that, but so it's good. It's addicting, and I'm kind of dreading the moment where you guys both kind of said that you reached, where you kind of just get to a point where you get all the jokers, or you have like the best jokers or whatever, and it just becomes sort of easy to go through the game. But I have a feeling I'll like, how long did that take you?
That never happens. So you get to that point in a run, but the game never has a ceiling.
Yeah. Like, I would say you get to the point where you like win a run, and that high's good for like a couple, like for me, that high was good for a couple weeks, and then I was like, well, what if I play Balatro some more? Like you'll hit that point where you're like, okay, I beat a run, I'm done for a bit, but then it'll creep back, and then that second relapse is hard to quench.
And then there's also like you talk about beating a run, like that's chump stuff. Like beating a run. You after that you get to a point where you're like, so what, I beat a run, how many antes can I get? I need to unlock this deck, etc. And you start getting into the harder decks. Like, I would say the only people who have ever really hit that point where they feel like they have solved the game, it's probably a single digit number of people in the entire world. And the reason why I say that is occasionally you will see screenshots or videos of them on TikTok, and they will be on ante like 40, and they will be getting into double digit exponentials, and they'll have like 12 jokers up.
Damn.
And you're like, holy fuck. Like, I didn't even know you could go that far. Like, I didn't even know that was possible. And that tells you, like, oh, that ceiling is very, very far away. So you will have runs where you feel like you go through it and you will get burned out if you play it too much day after day, but you will never hit a point where you're like, this game is easy mode, because there is a ceiling, but it is very, very, very far away.
Have you guys like stopped playing it for a significant amount of time, or is it still something you return to?
I still come, like when I'm sitting on the computer and I want to watch something, it's still in my rotation of like mindless video game I can turn my brain off of and listen to a podcast or watch a YouTube video, you know?
Yeah, and I probably stopped playing it for like 4 or 5 months, and then I came back when the mobile version came out and I switched over to that. So then again, I don't get very addictive with video games, so I know people who have been playing it nonstop the entire year, you know. Sure. So it's less a judgment on the game and ceiling and more just on what's your relationship with an addictive game with no end in sight in the game.
All right, I must have. I mean, it was different for me when I was listening to you guys talk about it when you were kind of in the middle of going through everything, back when it like first released, because I was thinking when you talked about hitting sort of the ceiling within a run, that was like the end of the game, where you were like, okay, I've done everything I can do. But you're saying this goes way further than that, and I'm not likely to hit that very soon.
Yeah. Like you could theoretically say, hey, beating the game means unlocking everything, unlocking all the challenge checks on all the jokers. And I know Zach from Save Data was excited when he hit that point. Like, I have not hit that point. I don't plan on hitting that point because the game does get pretty difficult when they give you like handicap decks from the start. But I would say even if you unlock everything, that there's always the edge to be like, I can do better, because the game will allow you to do better. And just because, like, as we're all aware here, when you beat a run, that's not the end. You say, okay, let me keep going. And it just gets harder and harder and harder. And it becomes an endless mode in a way. And you want to see how far you can get, how much you can beat the game.
Gotcha. Yeah. Cool. Well, those are the 2 games I've been playing, but I just added, because I wanted to talk about it and I forgot to add it to the document. But I would like to slag off the company Secret Lab, makers of, if you're watching, you can see, makers of this chair that I have had for about 5 years. This thing is a piece of shit. It's awful. It's so bad. You want to see how bad it is?
Oh, that's loose.
This is the best segment.
Wow.
For the past like 3 months, that back has had no support whatsoever. So I have been, every time I'm on local chat, I have to like center myself correctly so that I can like sit up and not like lean forward. Don't buy a chair from Secret Lab. Just never do it. It fucks up your back really bad.
I just avoid all those gamer brands pretty much 99% of the time.
I got this for Christmas. This was not something I bought.
That's fair.
Yeah. And you know, it was fine for what it was. I liked the color, like it wasn't too flashy. It's less like gamery. It just has the Secret Lab logo on it, and like, you know, it was fine. I just bought a new a new Herman Miller Embody. So I spent a decent chunk of change on it. And I'm really anticipating getting my spine realigned when I sit on that thing, because it's actually built for like sitting. This chair sucks. Like the Secret Lab, whatever, it's awful. I do not recommend it. But that's all I wanted to say.
Hell yeah.
I had a Herman Miller moment the other day, because everybody talks about that Aeron chair and they're like, just go get one of these, just go get one of these. And I was like, what is this chair? And I looked it up and I was like, pretty sure I had that chair when I was working in the office for like 5 years. And to be honest with you, I was like, it's an okay chair. It like, I don't know why people loved it so much. Because the other thing is like, this is an as is IKEA chair that I've had for like 6 or 7 years. Like, I've never been a fancy office chair person. It's just got to like tilt back a little bit, and it's got to swivel and adjust height, and that's good enough. So I don't really get the whole gamer chair thing. If they were much cheaper, I can understand it, but I don't understand spending that much money on shit unless you already have like a back problem and then it's like a medical thing.
Yeah. This is, I mean, the Secret Lab ones are not even cheap. If I remember correctly, this one was like $450 or something. Like that's not cheap. And I probably could have gotten, if I had bought it, like if it wasn't a gift, I could have gotten something at like Staples that worked just as shittily. But the one I'm getting from Herman Miller is the Embody. I think it's the Embody, and it's like their gamer chair, but it's just a rebranded version of one of their like standby chairs, like one of like their most popular chairs. So you know, it is what it is, but very much looking forward to not having to like prop myself, like literally.
Yeah.
That's so
like it just does that.
This chair, I had my other chair. Actually, I still have it. It's in the back. My other chair is great and I love it, but I needed a new chair, so I got this one, and this one's been great, and I have no issues with it. Other than the fabric ripping up over here. Sorry, I'm getting very emotional. The fabric is ripping up over here because I was wearing a pair of cargo shorts and the Velcro was exposed and it kept like shredding it. And I was real pissed about that.
You know what? You know what the crazy thing is though?
Nope.
I don't know why I did this, but I made a conscious decision. So if you remember at Extra Life, the chair we had at the producer's desk, simple chair, thin padding, just has like a fake leather on it, no wheels, no swivel or anything.
Yeah.
That's my work from home chair. So I sit in that chair like 8 hours a day, every work day, and I'm okay with it. So I think I'm just don't care that much about the chairs I'm in, which is probably a good thing to have. You know, I guess I could get any chair and be okay with it.
I have zero butt, so my butt falls asleep pretty quick. So I have a lot of wooden chairs, but I can't sit in a wooden chair for too long.
Yeah.
My butt will fall asleep. So it's like my tailbone starts to hurt. And I'm like, I should get a butt injection. I should get butt injections. I should get
Brazilian boob
BBL. Job in my butt. They should put. Yep, I'm gonna have it. Speaking of butts, folks, I have been playing video games this week. Early on in the week, I needed something to play, and good old Uncle Game Pass Ultimate was there for me with Spyro Reignited. The amazing not Vicarious Visions, Toys for Bob remaster of the original Spyro games. I am playing the first Spyro game. You are a little dragon named Spyro, and the annoying orc guy, Grok or something, Gnoc, turned all the dragons into jade statues, and you get a platform on all the levels and get the coins and the gems and free the dragons. It's mindless nonsense, and it's pretty good. So I've been playing a lot of that. It is weird. I wrote two things down here while I open up my phone. One of them I do remember with my brain, which is it's weird to have what year did that game come out? 2001, probably 2000. It's weird to have 2000's video game dialogue in 2024 graphics, where like these characters are so well animated, but they're just like they like quickly say one line or a hint of like how to do something in the game.
Oh,
and you're just
I thought this was just like an upscale modern system. They did a lot of work to this.
I have no idea. I've never played the original game, but it is at least the graphics are totally remastered. So I don't know if the level design or how the game works is different, but yeah, it seems like they just were like, oh, let's pull the slider on, make it Unreal Engine 4 or whatever versus what it originally was. And so yeah, it's weird, like these dragons pop up and they look super cool and they're just like, don't forget to use the attack button. And then he just like says something snarky back to them, and you're like, oh yeah, you used to just like, that's what video game characters did. They just like said a quick thing to you. And then the other problem with it just has long load times, like surprisingly long load times, during which you can fly around in the screen and breathe fire and stuff, which is pretty cool. But it's still a surprisingly long load time between levels there. But that's just, you know, it's fun. It's Spyro. I've never played a Spyro, but it's enjoyable for what it is. I'll leave it installed for a bit. The big game I played this week, folks, it's here. We're very excited. Stalker 2 has been released. on bail. Hopefully they don't stalk again for a third time, but we'll have to see. There's been a lot of press about this game. There have been nasty journalists coming out and attacking this game. Those nasty journalists on Metacritic saying horrible things about this game, saying it's buggy, disgusting, horrible things. You know what I say? I say China's disgusting. No, China. Stalker 2. I've been playing it on the Xbox Series X, folks. I hate to say it, and I'm gonna say it, but I love Stalker 2. It's really good, and I'm having a really fun time with it. It has crashed once. There was a lightning storm going on, and I guess opening my PDA was a little too much for the old Stalker 2, and she crashed. But since then, has maintained in quick resume, has given me lovely amounts of 60 frames per second. Looks amazing, other than the disgusting TAA that I hate and will always hate forever and ever. Amen. But I am having a great time with it. You are back in the zone. For those of you who don't know, the Chernobyl zone, spelled the Ukraine way. You were back in the zone to do some scans at the very beginning, and then some guy knocks you out with the butt of his rifle. And he stole your scanner, and now you're on a journey to get your scanner back. You are a stalker in the zone. Stalkers are like, they hunt for artifacts and they protect people, and they're all around good. This game is very difficult. If you've played a stalker game, you know what I mean. It is not as easy as, say, a Metro game, even though Metro games aren't that easy, but they're very AAA easy. This game is a lot harder. I have died 30 times, I think. It tells you every single time you die, the amount it has ticked up to, and even if you go back and load old saves, it still counts up how many times you've died in the zone. It is always the same picture of a mutant, and every single time you go, fuck, I've died that many times. I'm 9 hours in, and I think I just hit 31. I want to say it was the last time I died. This game also has, as far as bugs and stuff like that, I haven't encountered too many bugs, other than it'll get framey sometimes if there's a lot of stuff on the screen. As far as visual bugs, I should say, sometimes my HUD keeps disappearing, but I can't tell if it's actually disappearing or is doing the modern video game thing where your HUD fades away.
Or is it cinematic, certain moments?
No, it's not. It's definitely so. It definitely does fade away like modern video games, but it also sometimes just disappears and doesn't come back.
So maybe the bug is that it's not fading away like it should be.
But the other problem is it fades away. Like in Elden Ring, it fades away. And in Elden Ring, when you hit the button Y, I believe it's Y, everything comes back up. No matter what. And in this game, there is no button that does that. So I'm like, which way on the D-pad is it to do a med pack? I have no idea. I have no way of seeing that screen to come back up. And I finally figured out either pausing the game or opening up your PDA when you come out of it shows your whole HUD again. And I'm like,
gotcha.
It's just one more step. But most of that stuff I memorized. Bugs in the game I haven't encountered much, other than stuff getting stuck in things, me getting stuck in things. And then the one major thing that is broken in this video game is it will just spawn encounters on you, world encounters. I'll just be walking through an empty field, there'll be 3 guys walking towards me all of a sudden, and then a bunch of enemies behind me coming at me, as if I'm encountering them in the wild, but they just spawned on top of me, and I'm like, what the fuck? That's the main bug I've encountered. There's been little random stuff where you accidentally talk to someone too early or something else. But there hasn't been anything game breaking other than that one crash that was honestly really apparently taxing the system, and I can believe it. Speaking of how hard this game is, the combat is pretty fun. It feels more akin to Arma-y than it does to Halo or a shooter. The enemy is the AI is a little too bad. They see you immediately. Stealth is only viable if you kill that person who sees you immediately. Stealth in the sense of not of being quiet enough to not alert other people for sure. But as soon as you're in line of sight, even for like 100 meters away, they're like on you. And so you just got to pop them. Combat feels good when you're like in that flow of like hitting them in the head. They're very I almost said headshot hungry. Ooh, Daddy's head hungry. So like shooting them in the chest because they have their armor and stuff. So I usually like aim for the chest, shoot up, and kill them. Loot's great. I'm at the point where I'm playing the game really as I like started at one of my bases, go out into the zone, do a bunch of missions, do things, come back to the base, sell all my stuff, put all my gear into the box for the next run, save the game, and get off. And then once I'm finished getting off, turn the game off.
You get off,
and then come back to it later. So it's been like I just go on excursions every time I play the game. You get a lot of loot, and you do not need it all. It is I don't know if you can increase your carry capacity. You can. I haven't gotten to the point where I'm like where Skyrim over encumbered, but I've gotten to the point where my character's fairly slow because I'm like pretty high in the kilograms, and I've basically chalked it up to I was grabbing every vodka bottle, every loaf of bread, every sausage I saw, and all that stuff, and I've mostly balanced it out to like I take five bread, 5 sausage, 5 med packs. Bandages are super light, so I just keep all my bandages, and then guns and the ammo for the gun I have, not all my ammo, and then just take those out because you're killing guys all the time, picking up ammo, finding loot. I haven't encountered. I have a scanner that lets me scan for anomalies. So you have like a little beep, 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 beep radar thing that tells you when you're close to anomalies that could kill you. There's giant orb things that you can throw bolts into to set off anomalies. There's giant orbs. There's electrical patches. There's fire patches. There's radioactive stuff. There's needle wind, which is weird. And those you're kind of avoiding. And then occasionally on your little detector thing you take out, it'll blink, and when it blinks and you're close to the object, it'll appear, and then that gives you an artifact. And I don't know much about artifacts. They have like positives and negatives that you equip. So it's like, oh, this one, it protects you against fire. This one protects you against electricity. But so far, all of the artifacts I found also have weak radiation. So as soon as you equip it, your radiation starts going up. So I don't know if I'm supposed to have like a thing that takes that down, if I'm supposed to have like radiation medicine on me to like, do I have to manually see it, or does it fill up to a spot and then stay there? So I need to look into those a little bit more. But overall, Stalker 2, it's been super fun. I'm really enjoying it. I haven't played a Stalker game. I played the first one like probably 10 years ago, and it's punishing in the same way. It's interesting in the same way. You're just walking around these lonely areas. There's people on the horizon. You don't know if they're friend or foe. Doing side missions, doing sort of janky, weird missions. The writing's not great, but it is fun for what it is. It's kind of schlocky. The other thing I'll point out is they do allow you to quick save by just hitting start and Y, and it just quick saves, and it's great.
Ooh, that's cool on a console. Quick save on the console. That's cool.
So it makes like a different quick save every single time. Like I think up to like 4 or 5 of them, so you're not accidentally like quick saving over the last couple things. But yeah, it's really fun. I'm excited to get into it more, get more loot. I've seen in trailers, and I skipped through the new Drewski video of like people with like it almost like an Aliens type scanner where it like shows on the radar where the thing is. And I want to find one of those.
Like one of the first trailers or gameplay.
Yeah. So I found one. This guy's like, hey, can you deliver vodka to these stalker stashes? Because we got a guy out there who's getting radiation poisoning, but we don't know where he is, and we don't have radiation drugs. And so you go to them, and he's like, please don't steal anything out of these. And all of them had such good shit. And I was like, oh, I won't steal. Turns out that guy was double crossing me anyways, so I could have stolen it. And I went back to all the stalker caches, and they only had my vodka in it. And I went, fuck. I was like, I could have gotten that fucking great scanner. Oh, I was so pissed. But it's good. I know people are having a lot of technical issues with it, especially on PC, with some of NVIDIA's new stuff. But on Xbox Game Pass Series X, it's been going great. I've been having a really fun time. Yeah. Heck yeah. That's it. That's all the games I've been playing. Nothing else is worth talking about. Ian Gibson. Or any questions about Stalker 2, I guess?
No.
When you started playing, was there a huge patch that came out? I heard that there was like 140 gigabyte like day one patch.
It was downloading a patch when I went to go play it, but I don't remember it being excessive. It may have been. It said like, because I watched an episode of King of the Hill, because it said like 12 minutes to download, and I was like, okay, I'll go watch the episode. So yeah, it was a fairly big one. Also, if you're playing this game for the first time, folks, anyone, the intro is hard and it's hard to get through. And I had to play with a lot of brightness settings because the game starts at night, and on my OLED TV, I could not see anything at all. It looked gorgeous, but I had to mess with some stuff. So nighttime kind of looks like Twilight now.
There's a lot of fucking games that do that now, where they're just like darkness, pure dark, and it's like, no, fuck you, buddy. Use some lighting here.
It's like so beautiful and cinematic, except when I walk into a building and I'm like, go to talk to the shopkeeper, and it's pitch black, and I'm like, what is this? It's daylight outside.
Yeah, there's definitely, that's been a problem. I listened to SkillUp's review of it, and he said that he was basically blind firing into buildings to like shoot enemies because he just couldn't see them. Which is, realistic, I guess, but not necessarily super fun. He also said he played pre-patch and that his experience was pretty rough. He didn't actually recommend buying the game, but he said that he's heard from a lot of people post-patch that a lot of his issues with it have been like either solved or greatly reduced. So I'm actually really happy to hear that like you're enjoying it and that you're having a good time, because I think that's a good it's setting the game off in a good direction from day one.
Yeah, and it's really embraced. It doesn't seem like it's compromised too much about what makes Stalker in order to make it a modern game. Like there's obviously there's there's quest markers now. Your map is very up to date and all that sort of stuff, but there isn't like, you're still just like, what the fuck do I do? Like, where do I go? And they're kind of like, well, you can go this way for a little bit, and once you're out of the lesser zone, which is walled off, you like get out to like the open area, and it's like you can just wander into other zones. So it is really, it's sort of hand holding you without doing it too much, and it's doing it pretty well. And it's still also obtuse in a lot of areas. We're like, how do I upgrade a gun? Why does it cost so little to upgrade a gun, but it costs me thousands of dollars to fix this gun? And it does the stupid thing where you pick up an item and it tells you the value, but the value for selling it to someone is a different amount. And it's just like, fucker, I don't want to know what it's worth to me. I want to know what it's worth at the shopkeeper and whether I need to lug it all the way back with me. But yeah, overall, if you have Game Pass, definitely check it out. If you don't have Game Pass, subscribe to Game Pass for a month and check it out. It's good. Very good. Ian Gibson, how's it going?
Hi. Continuing to play Factorio. I think I'm on hour 67 now in Space Age. I have conquered Volcanus, which is the lava planet. I'm almost done with I forgot the name of Fulgara, which is the scrap planet. So basically each of these new planets have their own little twist on the gameplay. And with this one, the twist is that basically everything is very small islands. And then there's like a shallow oil ocean between the islands, which means you can't build on the islands. I think the only thing you can build are elevated rail platforms. So you can do trains between the islands, but you can't run electricity. If they're close enough, you can maybe connect your logistics network, but sometimes not. And then there are no raw resources. There's just scrap. So there's like these big scrap piles, and you mine the scrap, and it gives you like mid to late tier items that you then put in a recycler to break down into their normal items. So for example, like iron plate and copper plate, very basic first things you craft in the game because they're a basic recipe for everything. You can't get that from the scrap, but you can get steel beams which you then put in the recycler and it breaks them down into iron plate. So it's kind of reverse the crafting flow. And then the other thing is the way that you get electricity on this planet, the solar power is not very good, but there's constant lightning strikes and they get very heavy at night. So you build these lightning rods that when the lightning hits, it spikes your electrical network. So you end up just having to put accumulators, which are basically like electrical batteries, all throughout these islands, just so that when the lightning spikes, it charges some of the accumulators and then it slowly drains. And then another lightning spikes it back up. So yeah, I'm almost done with that. I have it building science, but I'm actually struggling with the power network because basically I made a mistake. There was one small island, but it had a huge patch of scrap on it. So I built all my stuff on that. But now that I have everything on there and working, I don't have enough room for accumulators to keep the power on 24/7. So like 10% of the day, the power's off. So I'm having to slowly do rail networks to other islands. And then because I can't string electricity back, I'm basically having to shut down parts of my manufacturing on the main island to reduce the electrical load, rebuild that manufacturing on a different island, and then have it shipped back via train. And it's really frustrating because it's my own fault, but I'm also so close to basically all I need to do is get to a certain level of science that gets built. And then I can walk away from the planet and it'll just keep building the science, send it on a ship back to my home planet and go back and forth. So it's really cool how these are little puzzles in these islands, in these planets. I still have at least 2 planets left to go, and I think there's like an end game type area as well. How's your Factorio going, Will?
It's good. I did actually log back in this week. I was sitting here and I was like, oh, what should I play? And I was like, no, fucker, if you don't know what to play, you're playing Factorio. So I logged in to my Factorio job and I actually went up and there's this giant like 5.1 or 8 point something million iron ore patch. So I'm laying that all out to deliver into furnaces to make more iron plate, so I can ship that iron plate back to my main factory because it is running super dry and barely making any steel. And all my steel's running out, and then it's not making science, and it's not making concrete, and all this other stuff.
So, if I may, it almost sounds like you need to do what I do, which is at that iron patch, don't make iron plate, make steel up there and just ship the steel down.
Yeah, I could do that, but I still need a bunch of iron plate down there as well, but I could just make steel.
You could do both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll see. But yeah, I am slowly working on it. That's going to be a new train network. And then I'm trying to get it so I can get that artillery up and running, because I think I'm almost at the point where I'm like, I need to start really walling off these bugs.
Buddy, that artillery, I confirmed it. You're going to have to go to Vulcanus to unlock
is it too far? Oh, damn it. Okay. I was trying to, like, the one problem with that research tech tree is hard to follow sometimes, of like what connects 100%. To what. So, yeah. I have laser turrets.
Yeah, because if you just get a lot of power going, lasers should be okay for now. And I think the other thing you may be able to do is flamethrower turrets, which are really good.
I need to make a blueprint or download a blueprint of a good wall formation and then print that with a bunch of robots and just have them build and maintain the whole wall.
Speaking of robots.
Yeah.
Have you played at all with the parameterization that is in the 1.1 or 1.0 or whatever they're calling this update? 2.0?
I have not.
So I only knew this because I saw it in some YouTube videos, but long story short, I have a blueprint, and the blueprint is an assembler, and it's a logistics requester chest, so a chest that requests things from other chests, and that feeds into the assembler, and then the assembler dumps into a provider chest. A provider chest basically just says, hey, this stuff can be used by the rest of the network. So it's, 5 pieces, right? When I place that blueprint down, it says, what do you want this assembler to build? And I click on what I want it to build, and it automatically sets the recipe for that, and it automatically sets the requester chest to the ingredients. And it's because when I made the blueprint, I copied an existing one, and then I just set up the parameters. So now, like, literally, I'm at a point where I have these black market areas. Like, I call them black markets with my little map pins, where I'm literally just like, I'm like, oh shoot, I need elevated rails. I don't have them being built anywhere, and I just drop that blueprint down and say build elevated rails, and it automatically just pulls whatever it needs from the network, constantly builds it, and then I have it set to do 5 stacks of whatever that is. And it's when you have bots up, make that blueprint ASAP, because it makes everything 10 times easier, because you don't have to worry about the bus anymore. You don't have to worry about anything. Like, you still have to supply it, but you don't have to build assembly lines anymore. You just drop down an assembler with a bunch of speed modules on it, and it's like good to go.
Do I have to put all of my ingredients in the chests though? I haven't set that up.
They do need to be in either provider chest or storage chest somewhere in the network. So what I did when I hit this point was I went to the end of my bus, because all my bus lines are kind of ending at the same point, right? Like a straight line.
Into a bin.
All it's going into yellow chests.
Okay.
And then that just makes all of that excess available to the network. And then excuse me, I don't think I've set up an assembly line in like 20-30 hours, because now anytime I need something, I just drop down that little parameter assembler blueprint and it just builds it for me. It's great.
Unless you need like, if you needed to spool up a factory, you would build the factory, not build a bunch of those assemblers.
No, I just do the assembler. Because if you're doing an assembler level 3 with 4 speed modules on it, unless it's something that you need like a constant huge amount of, like red circuits, green circuits, blue circuits. But if I'm just like, I need conveyor belts, I'll just drop one of those down and it'll start cranking them out constantly.
Okay. Yeah.
And worst case, like, I think I have 2 or 3 of them for gears, because I was like, oh, I constantly need gears, so I'll put 2 or 3 of those down. But yeah, it's fantastic, because that logistics plus that parameter, it just makes it so much easier to be like, oh, I need to stop building this by hand. I should have it available all the time. I don't have to go find a place. I don't have to actually build it out. I just drop the blueprint, select it. Worst case, I have to double check the ingredients and build one for one of the ingredients that isn't set up either.
When I get my robot,
fantastic.
When I get my robot network, I have to build a bunch of those beacons and stuff, or not beacons, but the robot bays, because I don't have those set up at all.
Buddy, do an assembler for it. That's what I did, because I got tired of building them by hand.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I don't even know if I have all the I mean, I think that is what originally stemmed my problem of needing more steel. Is I need stuff to build that.
I'll send you the blueprint string for it, because it's very simple and it's really good, really good.
Yeah. Okay. Before we bore Kyle anymore, please talk about his most anticipated game of 2024, Rise of the Golden Idol.
Yeah, continuing playing this. I just started chapter 4. I believe there's 5 chapters in the game. I'm still struggling with this game, to be quite honest with you.
Really?
I did solve one of the problems that I talked about last week. I did go into the settings. I did test that interface size, and it is an interface size. So it will scale down and scale up the UI. So I scaled the UI down, so now I can have at least a couple panels onto the side, and they're not taking up half the screen anymore. It's so much better. I don't know why they did that by default. It was fucking crazy to open a panel and it covers half the screen.
Yeah.
But I think there's a couple things that are making this less enjoyable for me than Case of the Golden Idol. I think you're right. Setting is one of them, but also the story is better in the original. It feels like the story carries through, and it starts getting crazier and crazier. And in this one, it's not quite getting as crazy. I just don't think the story is as enjoyable. What would you?
Yeah, I'm not as much of a fan of the story. I'm in chapter 5. I'm on the second to last mission. It's not super grabbed me. I think the story's interesting, but it's not something that I'm like, oh, this is a crazy way they took the idol thing. I think one of my things I wrote down to talk about was, it feels like they planned all of the missions and were like, okay, these are all the things we need for clues. These are the clues that reveal this information so they can solve this. And then they stopped there. Like, none of the missions feel like they added flavor or stuff to tell me more about the world. Even one of them takes place in a museum, and there's all these museum plaques. And I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. You're like learning about Lumerian stuff and everything. And it turns out each one of those plaques still relates to a puzzle And it's not like and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
I'm not against that, but it just seems like there's not enough stuff for me to be like, oh, what's this about? Like, what's this cool thing? I feel like the first one had a lot of stuff that helped you infer more about the world that they didn't explain to you, where this one is just like, it doesn't give you any information. You're like, oh, is this like our world? And then it's not, but they don't tell you in the ways it's not like our world, you know?
Yeah. And I think this is leaning a lot more on the story and the world building, because so in the first game was like 10 cases, right? You go through each cases start to go back on each other a little bit, reference previous things. And then the 10th case is just like, we're going to reference basically all the other cases, you know, and you got to put it together, which was cool. In this game, each chapter is multiple cases, typically 3 to 4 cases. And then the chapter has an overall mystery. So you have to not solve just the individual cases, but you also have to solve and understand the story of the chapter itself. So you're having to interact with the story a lot more and understand it a lot more, which makes it more obvious when you're like, oh, I'm not really enjoying this story, you know, and you're having to interact it with even more than the first game. And I think the other thing is I've had to look up answers for this game probably 3 or 4 times now. And it's a problem that I'm having. I'm hearing a lot of people on podcasts having the same problem. I didn't have this problem as much in the first game. I think I had it maybe once or twice, but I've had it 3 or 4 times now, where I will finish a case. I will know what has happened. I could tell you what has happened, but for whatever reason, the way that they have outlined the word blanks that you have to fill out, I'm not getting the right words. And it's because there's like an ambiguity, or they're not providing enough non-blank supporting words for you to figure out what they are asking you to put there. But again, I've solved the case. I know what it means. I'm just not saying it in the right way. So I've literally had to look it up 3 or 4 times and be like, okay, show me the correct words. And a couple of those instances, it was like, okay, you're asking me what happened on the day of the blank. There were 3 things that happened that day. And I put one of them and I'm like, that's a right answer. I look it up and it's like, no, it turns out they wanted you to say it was the day of this blank. And I'm like, there were 3 things that happened that day. Like, you could put any of those in there. So I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a little frustrating because there are things that they're doing better. Like, I do like the chapter structure where you're with the overarching story for each chapter. I do think some of the UI UX stuff is better. It's great to have more cases, right? Some of the cases are really cool and interesting. I just feel like they've also taken some steps back, and that sucks. This should have been a home run, knock it out of the park after the first game and the 2 DLCs. But I feel like this is the first time they've disappointed me with these.
Yeah. I hate to say it because it sounds like I'm boasting. I still think it's too easy. I think it's way too easy. And every time, like, there was the only thing that was difficult was one of them. The answer was one of those green answers, and it wasn't the thing I put, it was the thing inside of the thing I put. Like, that was the only thing I've ever been hung up on. And then Karen actually was looking at it and she's like, oh, what if you change that word? And that was the answer. But other than that, I mean, I've never used a hint in either this game or the first game.
Same.
And I think this is still too easy. I also set up Karen to play the first game, the Redux she's been playing through on my account, and I was looking at that and I'm like, oh, I wish I could play you again because you're so good. So it's sad.
To be clear, I don't think the game is hard. I just think the way that the way that they're requiring you to put the answers in.
It's not hard because they're clever. It's hard because some stuff is ambiguous.
And there's still one. There's a kiss in one of the cases, and from what I can tell, they never actually give you evidence for that. There is just a piece of flavor text that says the word kiss in it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
And you know what? This is not a spoiler, but there's a radio playing, and if you click on the radio, they're like, "Oh, and that's tonight's song, so and so, don't kiss me." And then you're supposed to infer that that's what happened in the scene. But it's like, no, it's just the radio DJ saying that was the song that played. So either I missed something there, or that is a really shitty clue.
I don't remember. I remember the clue. I don't remember using it.
Yeah, because that was the I believe that was. Oh no, never mind. Sorry, I'm confusing myself.
I think you are.
Kiss was a word. Kiss was a word. Yeah, it's that sometimes they will pull words into the scenario
that aren't used
to deliberately trip you up, and sometimes that feels a bit too much in a way.
Yeah.
That's my complaint there. Sorry, I confused myself.
I'm hoping the DLCs are a lot harder, because the DLCs for the first game were a shit ton harder than the game. Yeah. So I'm hoping the DLCs for this are harder. And now that they've planned for DLCs, I hope, and I kind of don't hope they did it this way, but like it's going to be a more fuller story playing all of those than just the main game. But that's not an excuse for the main game to not tell a full and good story. Like the original did. So,
because that original, just when that story took off in the original, and you start getting into those last couple missions, fucking wild. That was one of the best things about the game, was the story taking off. You're like, why is there such a crazy good story in a puzzle game? Why is this happening?
And then there's that epilogue level where is when I realized a thing that they revealed there, and I went, "What the fuck?" That game, that game pulls off some shit. Okay, quickly, Ian, as fast as you can, because it is 10.
I'm not gonna do it quickly, because fuck the news section. I have also been playing S.T.A.L.K, folks.
S.T.A.L.K.
I've been playing S.T.A.L.K, which is called S.T.A.L.K Naval Combat in the Missile Age. Came out in early access recently. It's basically like Jane's Fleet Command or Harpoon. You are controlling naval vessels in like a tactical display. It's trying to be ultra realistic. I will say there's a reason why I bought this game out of early access. Because we both kind of discussed that we were planning to wait, right? Because the early access looked like it was going to be a functional but very thin release.
Yes, a little early.
Yeah. But something happened, and it's that I've turned into a little Cold War boy.
Uh-oh.
And I've been trying to think about when this happened. And I think it started a couple months ago when we started playing Arma Reforger, which takes place in a fictional Eastern Europe, Cold War gone hot 1980s scenario. And then I was reading The Hunt for Red October, which takes place in the 80s. Fantastic book. And then I watched Hunt for Red October movie again. Fantastic movie. And then this past week, I've watched 9 hours of documentaries on the breakup of Yugoslavia, which is like a post-Cold War, early 90s ramification of it. Shout outs to The Death of Yugoslavia. Fantastic documentary, by the way. And all of that just led to me being like, I gotta play S.T.A.L.K, buddy. I gotta, like, you ever have that, Will? Like, I feel like you had that with Napoleon, and then you started having to play Napoleon Total War.
Yeah, I still immerse myself inside of Napoleon several times a week. Take that meaning as you will.
Yeah. What about Kyle? Anytime or anything that you've kind of accidentally immersed yourself completely in, and then that crosses over to gaming?
I mean, not really. Pretty much in college, it was like international film. It definitely like immersed myself in. We did a whole thing on like Hong Kong cinema and cinema from like Denmark and some Eastern European stuff, and that sort of has, I mean, like tangentially, like that,
and Sleeping Dogs.
Yeah, Sleeping Dogs 100%, and Yakuza. And no, I still have not played Yakuza, but like I remember watching Tarkovsky films and then realizing, oh, someone made a video game called Stalker, and like that's the connection there. And I still have not played it, but it's like I can see where that thread like finds itself. So it's definitely something I'm interested in. But it's been a while since I've like fully been able to immerse myself, and college is sort of the time you get to do that. And after college is over, it's harder and harder to find time to do that.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. But yeah, S.T.A.L.K is great. It's a really good foundation. We did a nice stream on it the other day. I think there's a couple things. Yeah, there's a couple things that really strike me about it. Number one is that it's very accurate. It's trying to be super accurate. So it's trying to do very realistic ships very realistic planes, very realistic missiles and their capabilities and how radar works and how they lock on to each other, to the extent that I have started doing research. I recently purchased a naval combat book off of eBay that has like charts of like, here's the harpoon missile and the range and how does naval combat work in the missile age. And I'm like, oh,
silhouettes of all the ships on the horizons.
Yeah. And then I was on the C-Power subreddit today because I was just like, oh, I wonder what these little weirdos are doing, and they're doing the same thing. Like somebody. So if you remember in the stream, when your ship detects an incoming missile, they go vampire, vampire, vampire. Somebody found an article. It was like a 4-page article that was put in a military journal, and it was like a firsthand account of when one of the U.S. destroyers came under attack from a Houthi missile in like 2018, and it was all about vampire, 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 and like how they react to it and how the ship handled it. And I was like, and I read that and I was like, this is fucking cool. It's just like C-Power. So I'm deep in it. Like, it's really cool. It's still sketchy. The game does not have saving right now, so when you start a scenario, you're just in it. It's got a lot of sketch. I will say at launch though, it has a mission editor that's easy to use, and it has workshop support. So it feels like they knew they weren't going to get everything out the door, but they focused on the stuff that would get the community excited. So it has a very good foundation. It does have bugs, but it's not like crippling bugs. Mm-hmm. And then they provided enough there for the community to start building and supplying scenarios. Kind of like Armor Reforger, where they're like, we're not going to focus on a huge breadth of content necessarily. We're going to get the function, the foundation of the game there, and make it easy for the community to help build this game with us. So it's really cool if you're into like any sort of like military tactics, any of those older games, if you're into like naval combat at all, definitely check out C-Power. It looks really, it's a lot of fun. Take a look at it. You'll probably be into it. Will, when are you going to buy the game?
Once it's on sale, I'll get it. Listen, that stream Tuesday did inspire me, which is the main reason I'm going to the hobby shop this weekend, is to look for some like cruiser or destroyer models to see if they have any of those.
Oh, I'm sorry, I cannot recommend those. I've done 2 of them, and it's very tiny parts, very shitty modeling, and it just becomes an absolute fucking nightmare to put those things together.
Oh, I mean, I saw a couple online of some of the Waterline series ones that look pretty good.
Oh, so, yeah. If you find a good kit, it's probably good. But
yeah,
a lot of them are crap kits.
I wanna touch them. I wanna build them. I want them. Speaking of touching and building, games this week, news, Ian Gibson news. Any good news you want to talk about?
Let's hit the important stuff here. First of all, we have the Game Awards complete list of GOTY nominees. We're going to go through every single category. We're each going to put multiple. No, I'm just kidding. Let's start this off right here with the announcement from the Game Awards. They said, quote, the Game Awards aims to recognize the best creative and technical work each year, irrespective of the format of that content's release. Expansion packs, new game seasons, DLCs, remakes, and remasters are eligible in all categories if the jury deems the new creative and technical work to be worthy of a nomination. Factors such as the newness of the content and its price/value should be taken into consideration. This came out shortly before the nominations came out, probably because they realized, oh shit, one of the GOTY nominees is Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, and we have never officially said that DLCs are eligible for Game of the Year. What are y'all's thoughts on this? Because I'm personally torn. Kyle, what do you think?
Well, after the last local chat that I was commenting in when you guys were talking about our own Game of the Year nominations, and I realized the fact that somehow I had put on like 2 or 3 games that just never got added into the document. I went back and added those in for sure, and also asked Jake if he wanted to co-nominate Shadow of the Erdtree for Game of the Year, and he agreed. So we have added that to our Game of the Year list. So I don't know if I would have necessarily worded it the same way that the Game Awards has. I like to think the process is a lot simpler. I think there's a pretty strong delineation between a DLC that is like a 4 or 5 hour experience versus one that is so expansive it could become its own game. I don't necessarily have a problem if it's sort of more of the same. If more of the same is worthy of Game of the Year, then that's fine by me. Yeah, I mean, I try to just keep it simple. If I had a good time with it, if I spent a decent chunk of time with it, then I don't have a problem offering that up as a gaming experience that is worthy of a Game of the Year title, in my opinion.
Gotcha. What do you think, Will?
I think Oblivion Horse Armor should have been eligible for Game of the Year. So any piece of content that is its own piece of content for any video game, if you want to nominate for Game of the Year, go for it. I mean, you got to have your passion behind it. But if you want to nominate the 1,100 shark bucks for GTA 4 DLC pack or GTA 5, then and that's your Game of the Year, I mean, more power to you.
I will say, just to swing back around to what I said before, we did nominate the Cyberpunk DLC. What's it called?
Yeah.
Like
our policy is much more open, but to be clear, we are nowhere near as serious as the Game Awards.
Oh, we're much more serious.
No, yeah, we're yeah.
We also have much better taste because the Game Awards is a panel of gaming industry journalists who historically do not have that good of taste. So
I just wanted to remind our listeners and viewers that there is precedent. There's subpixel precedent for this before. I'm kind of on the fence here, and there was something that I think it was Giant Bomb that was talking about it. There was a couple people on Giant Bomb who were against this, and they had a very good point, which is if you allow DLC of a game to be nominated, it's possible for a single game like Elden Ring, for example, to win multiple years. In which case, what's the fucking point of Game of the Year if it's really just the same game winning multiple years? And it doesn't matter that it's DLC, but let's take a scenario where it's like, I'm trying to think, like, let's say Destiny 2 was good, right? So Destiny 2 wins Game of the Year. And then it puts out a DLC the next year. That wins Game of the Year. And they just have to put out a good enough DLC every fucking year to win Game of the Year. I know that's a bit of a nuclear scenario situation, but it's like, that doesn't feel right. And then it comes down to, okay, well, what if it just wins twice for Game of the Year and for DLC? And it's like, that still doesn't feel right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you could, a movie series could be nominated for a movie, the Oscars Best Picture multiple years in a row. I mean, it's sort of similar, but also to me, like if Destiny 2 won Game of the Year and then the next year the Destiny 2 DLC came out and they named it Destiny 3 and they won Game of the Year, like, how different is that? They just changed the name.
That's fair.
This is, again, that comes back to what my comment was. Like, you're not going to see like the map pack for Halo 2 winning Game of the Year, but I think Elden Ring, the Shadow of the Erdtree, made it this far to a Game of the Year list because it is big enough, in my opinion, to be treated as a sequel or a bigger part of Elden Ring.
But I'm just going to say this. It was easier to make Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree than it was Elden Ring, because one of them is a brand new fucking game and the other one is more of the same game. And I think that's part of my thing here, is that
we're not rating it on difficulty. We're not rating it on the difficulty.
But it's easier to make Elden Ring than it was Dark Souls 1.
My point is that they're not two separate games. That's my point. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at, is these are not separate games. And I think that's what gets my crawl, is that you could have the same game win multiple years when at the end of the day, they're not different games. It's like Death Stranding and then Death Stranding Director's Cut. There's a lot of content added in there. Does that qualify it for Game of the Year versus?
I will also say,
win 2 years in a row. I don't think that's valid. It's the same game.
If they won this year, Elden Ring wouldn't win this year. It'd be Elden Ring Shadow of Erdtree that wins this year. So, I mean, I still get what you're saying, but see, that part I don't agree with. But
I fall more definitely. Yeah. Well, I mean, clearly fall more into what Will is saying, because like if you look at it from the perspective of other awards shows for other types of medium. I know games are their own thing, but like Game of Thrones won like 1 billion fucking Emmys, and it's the same show
for different seasons.
Yeah, but it's the same people making the same thing. And you can say, like, oh, well, season 1 was way harder to make than season 2 because they had to do the pilot, they had to get funding, they had to do all this stuff. And they, you know, there's already this like thing that's been built up. I mean, I totally get what you're saying, though, because it does feel like I understand that for sure. But for me, I think there definitely is a fine line, too, because like Will's making jokes about like the horse armor, like. Clearly, I don't think that would ever happen. I think the compromise here is if a game wins Game of the Year, it and its DLCs are no longer eligible.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to say that,
if the Game Awards want to do that, yeah.
but I like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the same game as Final Fantasy VII Original, and is the same. Is easier to make because of Final Fantasy VII Remake.
That's vastly different. And so again, this is where it gets into a gray area. It's like the only way to do this properly is to have either pages and pages of legalese where it's like it needs to be at least, and you need to go into like WGA writing criteria, like credit criteria, where it's like, oh, you need to contribute at least 10 pages of the script to get a writing credit or whatever. Or it just needs a qualifier, like I said, something along the lines of like, hey, if something wins Game of the Year, then it and its expansion packs and DLC are no longer eligible, just to ensure that you don't have a multi-year winner. Because I think that's the problem here. That's the situation you're trying to avoid. It's okay for a DLC to win Game of the Year. Like if Phantom Liberty won last year, I would disagree, but I would kind of understand it. But Elden Ring winning multiple years, that does not make sense to me.
And now that I'm thinking about it, I treat Elden Ring and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as the exact same thing. They're both basically DLC for the same game. Like, I know they are named different games, but that is the Destiny 2, Destiny 3 situation. They are almost exactly the same as their previous games.
I think Destiny 1, Destiny 2 is a better example because Final Fantasy is drastically different.
No, I'm saying Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Final Fantasy VII Remake.
They're drastically different.
I don't agree with that. They're not drastic.
Yeah, because apparently Rebirth is like twice as long. It adds in a giant, huge open world area. It adds in like 40 new mini games.
But that's what Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree does to Elden Ring.
Elden Ring is just new areas and new bosses.
Yeah, I think it should be eligible. I think any game, like if it causes enough ruckus to get here, then why would you deny it its place? You know?
Okay. Not that I want to continue this, but I don't think it has caused enough ruckus. It came out.
Clearly, it did to someone. People were like, put it in Game of the Year.
People were like, it's good, but it's more Elden Ring. And the most ruckus it had was people saying, hey, this is not balanced properly. It's actually too difficult.
A lot of people hated Final Fantasy VII Rebirth compared to Remake. So I think. And I heard nobody talking about Black Myth Wukong.
Oh, no, there were a lot of people talking about Black Myth Wukong.
I don't think Black Myth.
The only ones that make sense here are Astrobot and Balatro. Those are the ones I heard about the most this year.
Let's transition here. So Game of the Year nominees: Astrobot, Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and Metaphor ReFantagio. I do have some breaking news. The Golden Joysticks winner Ultimate Game of the Year was Black Myth Wukong, awarded today. I'll kind of start here. Helldivers 2 is missing from this list. I don't know why that is not on this list. That feels like a crazy thing to not have in here, right?
Yeah, especially for its impact.
You mean from the Game of the Year spot?
From Game of the Year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I'm not trying to throw shade at Elden Ring, but like if I look at this list, I think the one that is the lowest on this list is Elden Ring. And Helldivers 2 deserves it more than Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree on this list.
Yeah, I don't want to conflate. I don't think Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree deserves Game of the Year, but I think it deserves to be on the nominees list if it makes it there. I would definitely
eligible though.
Yeah, I would think it
deserves to be eligible.
It totally deserves to be eligible. I would also place Helldivers 2 probably over Shadow of the Erdtree, mostly because I didn't play Shadow of the Erdtree, and I fucking loved Helldivers 2. So I would put it there. But I would also replace Black Myth Wukong because I didn't play that and just Elden Ring's cool. So there goes my bias immediately.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is a bit of an oversight. I'm happy Balatra's there. I'm happy there's been several trolls on Twitter who have bought and played Balatro and admitted they were wrong about it not deserving to be there, which is a hilarious turnaround. So I'm happy it's there, but yeah, Helldivers 2.
So there is a weird thing here, though, which is that there's a category called Best Ongoing Game, right? And Diablo 4, Fortnite, and Destiny 2 are on this list. And for those games, the major way in which they on-go is season passes and DLC.
Yeah.
So this is so this is one of those things where in their categories, they're now differentiating between, it's not saying Destiny 2 the final shape. It's not saying Fortnite season 12 or whatever. So I think they've got a growing identity crisis here, where I think Erdtree is getting special treatment, is what it feels like, honestly.
I mean,
I disagree with that.
Yeah, Elden Ring's not a live service game, I would also say. But if they put Elden Ring, I mean, yeah, that's a weird thing, but yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not a live service game.
Just looking through, I feel like UFO 50 could have also been on the GOTY list. There's also there was one more. Silent Hill 2 getting a lot of positive buzz, could have been on the GOTY list. Even going through the other categories, Dragon Age Veilguard, that had a lot of positive reviews. Didn't end up on the GOTY list when Inquisition won Game of the Year when it came out. So this just feels like a very weird nomination list, where it feels like they got some things right, like Balatro and Astrobot, and other things that are just why? Like, why is Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 anywhere in this list? You know?
I watched Nextlander play Dragon Age of Veilguard, and it looked awful. So I think they dodged a bullet on that one.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't necessarily mean that it's better. It's just that same nominees pool has loved Dragon Age enough to give it Game of the Year, you know.
Yeah, that's true. I'm probably not even gonna watch Game of the Year this year. Game Awards.
I'm not going to.
Game of the
Summer
Awards.
Game Fest.
Game of the Awards.
It's just so fucking cringe.
Do you know any of these content creators that have been nominated for Content Creator of the Year? I don't know any of them.
Is Subpixel there or Save Data?
I don't. Queso, Ilowan, Techno Gamers, Typical Gamer, and Usada Picora. I've never heard of any of these people, and I usually
I don't know any of them.
Like it should be like I Show Speed, like Kai Cenat. Like there are people who clearly should be nominated on here. It should be oh shit, what's up, brothers? I forgot that guy's name. He should be on here. He blew up in a good way. Yeah, I forgot his name.
I can't remember.
I have no idea who you're talking about. So
I feel like even like you could make a case even for like Donkey being on here. Like, I don't know.
Donkey?
Yeah. Video game Donkey.
I think Donkey's too old though. Like, I kind of want this category to be like breakout content.
You want it to be little kids?
No, I want it to be like this is like breakout year. You know what I mean?
Is he the one who sort of talks like Plinkett?
Yeah, kind of.
I hate that guy.
Yes. He sounds like he's black, but he's white.
He was popular like 5 or 6 years ago, right? That's when that came out.
He published Animal Well.
Oh,
he was he does the big mode games thing.
That's weird. Nothing against him.
Everything against him.
This is a year where you could like highlight and they're fucking esports categories: best esports game, athlete, and esports team.
You know, I love ZM JJKK.
Yeah, and shout out to Giant Bomb also pointed this out as well. Best sports racing game, F1 24 is on this list. F1 24 is a bad game. Everybody hates it. Like, they changed the driving model and it was broken for like a month. Like, everybody hated it. So it being on this list is like, why? Like, it's a broken, like, the series is good. This is the worst one they've ever put out and it ends up on the list.
Ooh,
so a lot of this.
Also, best family game. That's such a weird category.
I was just looking at that. It's such a strange.
I mean, Super Mario Party Jamboree, it's fantastic. Yeah. But it's just a weird category.
I feel like, yeah. I feel like there's kind of two problems with this list. Number one is they've got some weird / pointless categories in here, right? And I think the other problem is the games that keep ending up getting nominated here. We've talked about this before, but when you look at who's part of like the nomination and the judging panel, it's a lot of these there's some independent game journos there like Jeff Gerstmann and stuff and MinMax, but then there's also like IGN, and GameSpot and Kind of Funny. And it ends up being one of those things where it's not the best game. It's the most popular game / the game that is the most milquetoast that enough people on the team enjoyed it to end up on there. Like, I did not play Plucky Squire. I was excited for Plucky Squire. Everybody I've heard who played Plucky Squire said that it's a complete letdown, an absolute disappointment, and yet it's on here under best debut indie game. And it's like, why? Maybe just because it was popular. That's it. Yeah, fuck this game. Fuck game of the year.
Also, I do have to point out, this was definitely pulled from like a spreadsheet or something, because if you look at best action adventure game, Astrobot is in all caps, and then if you look at the GOTY, it's not in all caps. There's some inconsistencies here. Also, why do they include in the best fighting game? Why are they including the publisher and the studio? And most of the other ones don't have the publisher and the studio. It's very strange.
You know what? This reads like they fed AI something and said spit this out into a nicer list.
I would not be surprised.
It didn't uniform the formatting. That's what it feels like.
Campfire Night mentioned in chat if they're too sheltered to know the content creators. I don't know any of those content creators, but I also think content creators and discovering content creators is a young man's game, in my opinion. Like
I stick to like Skill Up, I stick to Digital Foundry, and like occasionally Dunkey, and that's pretty much it. Maybe like People Make Games, just because they do really good reporting. But I don't know any of these guys. Yeah.
Very set in my ways. Moving on here. What am I doing? I don't host this. Ian, is there any other news you want to talk about? Are we good?
I'll just drop this here. There's not much to talk about, but Sony is in talks to buy Kadokawa, who is the media powerhouse that owns From Software and Elden Ring. And we got a little bit of tidbit behind that, which is basically that there's a rumor that Kadokawa approached Sony themselves because they're facing a hostile takeover from a Korean company. And so they approached Sony and said, please make a bid so that we can be sold to you instead. Ramifications of this is that the studio behind Mario and Luigi Brothership and Project Triangle Strategy is also part of this company. So they may get folded into Sony along with From Software.
Oh, no.
I think for me, this is a bad thing. I was listening to Ben Hansen from Max talk about this, and he had a very good point, which is that From Software is very successful. They know how to make games. They know how to make them pretty frequently. They know how to make them incredibly well. And when you fold them into a big company, that brings change. And there is zero reason for any change to happen at From Software right now, except for their fucking UI UX. Somebody get somebody in there to fix that up for them.
No, make it more screens.
It's the only thing.
Bring more spreadsheets. Just load Excel into Elden Ring.
Bring the people from CCP Games over.
Yeah,
some of that spreadsheet goodness.
So developing story here, but could be a takeover here.
Damn. You want to talk about your content call out?
Somebody made a website.
I saw this.
That randomly pulls videos from YouTube that have default camera name titles, such as, IMG_0276. And so you can go to this and just watch these random video clips and click the next one. And it's a lot of people's weird little home videos, or here's my niece singing in the choir. And it's wild. There's so much shit online that sometimes you forget. And also, if you go to the website, there's a little tiny remote that you can use. It's great.
It's very cool.
It's a while.
This feels like stumbled upon for these types of videos. It's good.
Nice. And also, quick wish list spotlight is Effulgence on Steam. I only put this in here because it's got bonkers visuals. It's like ASCII, but all 3D animated and crazy and weird. It is a game that is coming out. I don't even know. I literally know. Ooh, there's a playtest. I'm gonna request access. Explores a mysterious world brought to life through text symbols. The only way to gather crafting resources is by defeating creatures and breaking them down to individual parts. Using the particles, you can print weapon gear and mechanisms on a special printer. The glow of a distant galaxy comes to life in symbols. Defeat creatures to collect crafting. Yeah, exactly what I just said. Effulgence. You can request to be in a playtest. Comes out slated for March 2025. Mostly just looks really fucking neat. It's got this
we really do have a type, like an aesthetic that we respond really well to. Like,
yeah. It's just games that look good and different.
Yeah.
That look good, bad good. Making art out of shit. It just that orbiting moon on that planet is so fucking cool. God damn it. I want to play this game. So go check it out. That again is Effulgence. I'll put that in the YouTube notes as well. And that's gonna be it for the show, boys. Thank you for being here. Kyle, thank you for not falling asleep during the boring sections and sticking around.
Every time I'm on, we talk about Factorio, and I'm just not. I'm not here for it
because the DLC came out. I'm so sorry.
DLC's coming out. It's gonna win Game of the Year at the Game Awards.
I'm really happy for everyone who plays it. I thought about putting it on
the Game of the Year list, but I haven't gotten to the DLC yet, so I don't think I deserve to put it on.
Honestly, I don't think the DLC is Game of the Year worthy. But I was thinking, I'm not gonna do this, but I was like, we did not have GOTY when Factorio came out.
It's true.
And I should put it on the list. And I was like, nah, that's not really the spirit of it. It's one of those games, kind of like Dwarf Fortress, where it's like it never got its award season.
Mm-hmm.
And if it did, it would be winning all over the place. But just because of how
we should make a video about that, basically.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
No, fuck off. No, too lazy for
folks, thank you so much for watching Campfire Night. Thanks for hanging out in the chat. I've been reading your messages and ignoring them. No, I was reading your messages, and by the time I saw them, we had already moved on. But let it be known that I love that you pop in and watch our streams. Thank you everyone else for watching or listening in your little ear holes. Folks, we will be back next week. Tuesday, we're going to do something, and then next Thursday, we're going to have more local chat. I might pop on the streams at some point this weekend.
Oh, Thursday, I don't think we'll have local chat.
Oh, no, we won't, because it's Thanksgiving next week. So we'll have local chat.
No, we're doing
either early on Tuesday or the following week. But I might play some Stalker at some point. Subpixelfilms.com is where you can find all of our content. Join our community Discord and get notifications for that. Kyle Bailey, Ian Gibson, thank you so much for joining me, folks. I've been your host, Will Crosby. Have a wonderful week, and I love you.